In the spring of 2019, over 30 Columbus artists traveled to Cuba to participate in a life-changing experience, pairing their own artworks alongside those of native Cuban artists. The journey raised many questions about the impact traveling has on artists and what the future will be for both the arts and the larger community of Columbus, Ohio, after being exposed to the vibrant people and cultures of Cuba.
So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lolo's amazing, beautiful gallery.
Artists and designers are often on the sort of leading edge of culture and moving it forward. So when a group of artists have an opportunity to go experience what life is like in Cuba and then bring that back home here to Columbus, it gives all of us just a taste of that experience. We may not get the whole experience if we didn't go to Cuba ourselves, but it gives us, I think, a window onto a world that most of us here in Columbus will never get to experience personally. So I think that it does a great service to the entire community to help expand our whole community's worldview.
The Cuba project is very dear to our heart. We were part of it coming in. We will be exhibiting some of the artwork that comes from Cuba. So it's going to be all over the city, which I think is exciting because you have to go everywhere to see it. And then the part that went to Cuba, we of course knew all of the Ohio artists were there. And we also helped, the Cuba curator in Cuba was very interested in Aminah Robinson. And we represent the Aminah Robinson estate. And we worked with Michael Reese to make sure pieces of Aminah's were able to go to Cuba.
We've been fortunate in that we've been able to have these amazing art experiences, whether it's, going to Prague with Laine in the art museum or, seeing an art exhibit. We've been fortunate that we've been allowed to experience that. And I think access is key because you walk away and you see the world with a different lens. And I think what I would like to see is to ensure that everybody has that same kind of access, whether it's race, gender, zip code, that they're all able to have some of the same experiences that we've been able to.
The first visit was an opportunity to meet with Cuban artists and get a sense of what their life is like as Cuban artists and sort of open that dialogue between us, which was really just very conversational about what do you do and how do you do it and what do you do when you sell work and where does that money go, and it's sort of an interesting aspect of that. So there was an awakening a little bit about a cultural gap and how they deal with art and how we deal with art. I think over there art is looked at maybe as something more essential. And so artists in Cuba sort of take on this stature of being creative, which is maybe more important than how it's looked upon here.
I think the graciousness of the people that we visited and the genuine personalities that were kind of offered to us was a sensitive nature that we're not as used to here in America. And looking through that lens and viewing a generosity from one culture to another, that was definitely something I used in this piece and that I will be using in the future to come.
And hearing the stories from him and then getting on the plane and going, completely different. It smells different. The humidity's different. Ain't no hot like a Cuba hot, I think is what someone said. Smelling the diesel fuel and the liveliness of a city that's similar to like a New York City or somewhere big, but different, totally different. I really enjoyed I wanted to talk to people more. Because I felt like the Cuban people that we ran into wanted to speak with us.
Being in Cuba was so different than any place I've ever been. And I could barely walk down the street because there was so much to see, like just the little, chipped sidewalk or, peeling paint or the ironwork on the windows or whatever. Just the sky there. Everything was I seemed so, charged with the vividness of the experience. And I think when you are traveling, I think, you're totally out of your, the mundane of the everyday, and you're at least for me, I'm more hypersensitive to all the little details.
What this does for us as a community is we get to hear the voices of Cuban artists. We get our own insights into Cuban life, Cuban culture, the Cuban art, the Cuban arts. I think that is so fundamentally important. And it isn't a talking head on the news telling you what they think about Cuba and what you should think about Cuba. This is our way among people and artists to connect. And I think that connectivity is what will, in the end, save us in the 21st century. If there's anything in the 21st century that is going to help the human race survive, it's going to be acknowledging our shared humanity and that we're all connected.
It's important for us to be able to see different aspects of the world. So in order to be able to create and to know our voices specifically, we have to be able to know the voices of others. So specifically Cuba was amazing for me because I've never been out of the country, and so it was specifically, empowering and inspiring because for once in my life I was not the minority. And so to be in a space like that where people are respected and honored as artists, and it's not that you write art, you write poetry and you do something else. You are a poet and it's acknowledged as such. So for me, it was powerful to be able to be on another part of the world. It's really so close to me. And to be able to kind of share in that exchange.
We all have our own perspectives that we're bringing to this trip, and we're all there to connect with people. And so we open ourselves up to this greater connection while we're there, and it's through those moments that you realize that people are people. We're essentially the same. When you stay in one place, you don't know what's outside. And if you stay in one place from birth till death, and you have kids who stay in one place from birth till death, and you get isolated, and you need to see the world to realize that they're just the same. It's just a different part of the world.
It was amazing to see their visual language could speak to across borders and language barriers, and being able to see the artists and how they work with what little they can get was really inspiring.
As a spoken word artist, I'm a poet, of course, but it's performance-based poetry. So that can range anything from love to parties to social justice to, a number of things. I really use spoken word as a means of understanding myself. So subjectively, I'm kind of all over the place. It's really how I unpack, being able to see those thoughts on paper. But
thank you all for the opportunity.
Gracias a todos por la oportunidad.
We hope that by examining the barriers of language that we could all grow closer this afternoon.
Que piensan que espera poder romper la barrera del idioma que separa a nuestros países. En esta tarde espera romperlo.
The poem I'll be reading is called Lost in Translation.
El poema que va a leer se llama Perdido en Traducción.
Even language is a concept.
Aún la lengua es un concepto. El idioma es un concepto.
A construct.
Una construcción.
A wall.
Una pared.
Anything worth communicating was felt before it was ever spoken.
Cualquier cosa que valió la pena comunicar fue sentido antes de decir.
So, what then is the nature of the tongue?
Entonces, ¿cuál es la naturaleza de la lengua?
Taste, noise.
El sabor, el conocimiento.
Is laughter not louder than the joke?
¿Es acaso la risa no más importante que la broma?
Is an embrace not sweeter than nothing's whispered into ears?
¿No es acaso un abrazo más dulce que algo dicho al oído?
Are tears not heavier than the news that precedes them?
¿No son las lágrimas más pesadas que las noticias que la preceden?
What is to be said of a tongue called native?
¿Qué es lo que se ha dicho acerca de un idioma llamado nativo?
That is familiar.
¿Es familiar?
When has what you're used to ever been enough? Is there such a measure? Understanding, perhaps.
Es la comprensión, quizás.
The likes of which the simplicity therein is often underestimated. Consequently,
vamos a ir aquí.
Leaving its achievement unappreciated.
Siguiendo sus éxitos subestimados.
And so,
y así,
even language is a barrier.
Aún el idioma es una barrera.
tongues twisted into shovels,
lenguas torcidas como palas,
burying connectivity under words,
enterrando la conexión entre palabras,
perforating partially the purpose of being person.
perforando parcialmente el propósito de ser una persona.
Has the essence of relationship not been achieved in silence?
¿Acaso no ha sido la esencia de la relación alcanzada en silencio?
Is it not deafening enough to force one to listen earnestly?
¿Acaso no es sordo suficiente para forzar a que sea oído
Internally,
internamente?
unlike listening, speaking is taught.
Al contrario del oír, el hablar es enseñado.
Language is learned,
El idioma es enseñado
as is any bias.
como cualquier prejuicio.
It is in the midst of this learning
Es en el medio de este conocimiento, de este aprendizaje,
that the true source of communication is cast aside.
de que la verdadera fuente de la comunicación es forjada.
The heart speaks its final words on the babe's last coo.
El corazón late como el último arrullo del bebé.
The mind then manifests difference,
Entonces la mente se manifiesta diferente
and so we become it.
y en eso nos convertimos.
Distant from self
Distante de nosotros mismos
and others.
y de otros.
Thank you.
What was I going to give them that was going to be meaningful to both them and to me? You know, what was going to be cross-cultural, I guess, and at the same time show that we're both alike or have similar interests.
Sometimes we can become so siloed in our own world and think that this is all that there is of art. So to be able to expand and see that art and history is so much bigger and broader than us is super inspiring and important and necessary, especially if we are creating our own work. We need to be in conversation with those that have come before us and with those that are doing art all over the globe. But if we don't ever go and see it or learn about it or experience it, then how can we know? And so it's super important. And I think that our work will be transformed by that, and not only our work in ourselves, but whoever is able to experience our art as well.
As Americans, you can be very, very myopic about your life and your worldview. Anytime you travel, you step outside of that. You see yourself in a different context. You see your country through someone else's lens. And I think that's the biggest thing you get out of travel. I think our job is to provide that experience to people without having to travel.
In terms of writing the poem, what I thought about mostly was something that we had in common. And I wanted to try to bridge that gap that we have between us. So one of the things that I thought about was language, and how in reality we all really speak the same language. We all speak the same language of love. And so art is a beautiful way to be able to bridge that gap. And so that's something that I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell that story through the poem.
I am so honored to be here.
Y es un honor para mí estar aquí, para ella estar aquí.
The poem that I will be reading
El poema que ella va a leer
is titled We Fall Into.
se llama Nos enamoramos.
Oh, Cuba,
Oh, Cuba.
you are a song we fall into.
Tú eres una canción de la que nos enamoramos.
Your colors
Tus colores,
are a flag we wave.
la bandera que ondeamos,
How art becomes our language
cómo el arte se convierte en nuestro idioma
when our tongues fail us.
cuando nos falla la lengua.
Teaches us to see
Nos enseña a ver
each other
entre nosotros mismos, a nosotros mismos,
in one another's eyes.
y dentro de en los ojos de otras personas.
We braid ourselves into each other's songs.
Nos traemos a nosotros mismos dentro de nuestras canciones
And become a new nation.
y nos convertimos en una nueva nación.
Together we create a land
Todos creamos una tierra
where language is not a barrier
donde el idioma no se convierte en una barrera
or a border,
o una frontera,
We stand together.
Nos estamos juntos, firmes juntos.
We wrap ourselves into each other's hearts.
Nos volvemos, nos abrazamos todos en un corazón.
And become a new language.
Y nos convertimos en un nuevo idioma.
Our joy becomes
nuestra alegría, nos convertimos en alegría.
A body of ocean we fall into.
Nos convertimos en un océano.
Bend our cultures
en nuestras culturas
into a blended name.
Se convierte nuestra cultura en un solo nombre.
My brother,
mi hermano,
sister,
mi hermana,
deep within the ocean's reflection.
Inmersos en lo profundo del océano.
We reflect each other's light.
Nos reflejamos nuestras propias luces.
Just the same.
Y somos lo mismo.
Thank you.
I think for artists it's really important to travel because we need new experiences and we need points of view that are different from our own. And I think if you want to stay healthy as an artist, it's really, really important to just go be around people who are not like you and see things that you've never seen before. Meet new people, do stuff you never did before, because it keeps your brain ticking over.
But what you learn is so much, not only from your peers and people around you, but you learn about history, you learn about social changes. You learn so much by traveling.
I think it's very important to see all parts of the world in so many ways. I think it's inspiring in its own right.
I feel connected now. I feel totally connected with Cuba, with my people. Before I went, I felt this void or this anxiety about not knowing. It gave me peace. It gave me peace. It's just an amazing experience to have my work there. My mom suddenly got sick. We didn't know that she was going to pass away. We didn't know she was so critically ill. But while she was in the hospital, she said, "You go to Cuba." I went in 2015, and I took time to visit the house that we left, the last house we lived in. And we showed up with our guide. At first, the owner sort of hesitated to let us in until I had all these photos, and I showed it to him, and I go, "See, this is my house right here. See, this is this house." While I was there, I said, "How about our next door neighbor? I used to play when we were little. Does he still live there, Henry?" And they said, "Oh yeah, Henry still lives there, but he's out of town. He's out of the country." My next trip, I went back to my neighborhood. This time, I'm just going to go to Henry's house. And so I was walking up the street, and their man was hanging out the window. And I said, "Does Henry live here?" And he goes, "I'm Henry." And so I go, "I'm Elsie." So he came running down. I said, "How about Lily, who used to be my playmate when I was young?" And so Henry said, "She lives in the corner." And so here we go, and we show up at her house, and we woke her up. Those two encounters were life-changing for me. I never, ever thought that I would see them again, ever. My work is reflective of Cuba because it has a lot of layers. I feel like sometimes I'm sculpting the paint. Even with all this energy and all this activity going on, at the end, they sort of look pretty peaceful, but they're not.
Visiting Cuba was another experience for me to see people who live a life different than ours, not always easier than ours, not always more difficult than ours, but different than ours, and they have their own struggles that we don't always experience. And so I was able to bring in those, a new field of experience and a new field of survival and a new field of endurance and triumph outside of my normal point of view. And that's all, as an artist, that's just all fodder for future creation. It's just things that come in and get tossed around inside your mind and inside your heart and eventually come out.
We always went in groups together, so we usually go with 5 taxis.
the main taxi guy, he was ahead of us, and we were going on the trip. And the potholes there are like small ponds. His taxi goes in there, and it just rips out the whole gas line underneath his taxi. He gets out, he smiles, and he has this kind of thing like, what are you going to do, right? The next day, somehow that thing's working again, and it's going. If something like that happened to me in the States, it would derail me for like a week. How we respond to it just illuminated everything in terms of the art we meet and the artists that we meet. Like that moment kind of crystallized so much of like the spirit there. That little insignificant moment isn't even really quite art related, but it was in a way.
I think travel is really important for artists because you get to go and live somewhere else for a while, experience something else, and it takes you out of the monotony of your day-to-day and allows you to see how other people live and how they experience the world. And then when you come back, it's inevitable that you'll see your world differently.
You see the world differently through the eyes of the people in those places you visit, and it's good to be vulnerable. It's good to doubt instead of having control of everything. It's always good to be put somewhere where you don't know what to expect.
I think that every artist, because they're generally open-minded individuals, and to be exposed to different cultures and their art, and even just in their living style and where they live and who they are and how they work, and the interaction is a huge growth for probably any artist to go in and take away from that. I come back with a million ideas.
Makes sense to have an exchange of artists and to realize that outside my world there's also some wonderful stuff, but I actually don't know everything. It's a big shock.
For artists, it's really important to have connections with other artists, and that was something that happened on this exchange that going into it I maybe didn't necessarily expect, but one of the best things for me that happened was the people in our group that I already knew, I got to know them better and we became really good friends. And then the people that I didn't know, I got to meet all these other wonderful artists, and I got a bunch of new friends out of the deal as well.
Every artist is always looking to grow and adapt and learn from other artists. No matter where you go, you're always just trying to exchange ideas, exchange thoughts, whether it just be with other artists within your city, but then you get the opportunity to go somewhere that's a totally different culture and to experience that and to exchange ideas and to see works that are so different than what is being created around you. And it's just that idea of, any artist just is looking to grow. And this is one of the best ways to do it, is to see and meet other artists, and especially ones, again, who are in a different culture.
I want to show America that America is still welcoming. America welcomes people like me, people like refugees from around the world. Americans are generous, Americans are kind, and I want to show that image. So that's a 40,000 foot. On a personal level, coming from an African background, I'm always interested in the Americas, not only the United States, but the Americas, and how, the slavery and how all this immigration have changed the Western Hemisphere. So visiting Cuba, sometimes I see people that look like me, and I see people that look like someone, my cousin. So it's kind of amazing. So to be part of that, it is really, it's taking not only my art to another level, but it also making me really aware of how rich visiting another country could make you intellectually. So it's important that we visit other countries, it's important that we exchange art, and it's important that we support other artists around the world, and we shouldn't be self-absorbent only on what we produce, but also visit others and buy their work, support them. So that's what we did in Havana and Matanzas. My actual photography is geared towards human rights and forced migration. It's a film photography, so it's a photograph, and it is the style in which traditionally portrait photography that focuses on faces or people's emotions, and everything is analog. It's the film, it is the camera, it is no autofocus, no nothing. It's just pure 19th century photography style on a 4x5 wooden camera. And I do it because photographs of the migration of the Irish migration here in the United States were done with those cameras, and that film in particular is still around. So I want to preserve the culture of the United States for future generations, just like those who photographed the people coming off the boats. So I want to keep that tradition alive, and I want to choose that medium.
It's amazing to travel with like minds. It's amazing to be immersed with people who are painters or artists or dancers or music people. They all have, I think, similar interests in many ways. There's a lot of cross-pollination. And to go to another culture and find, which, Cuba to me was sort of a forbidden place. And to get there and find out that there are like-minded people there as well.
Well, I think overall, traveling with the artists from Columbus in itself was great because, there were poets, painters, ceramic artists, and sculptors, such a wide group that it was really fun to travel with everybody because, you get to know someone over these trips and everybody's kind of pointing out different things to look at to each other and not miss.
It was a tremendous opportunity because we're an extremely diverse group, age and gender and race and everything. And so many of these artists I wasn't familiar with and probably wouldn't have been. Isn't that a funny thing to say, living in Columbus, Ohio, but we had to go to Cuba to meet each other and understand each other's work, and that was a great opportunity.
I've gone on other residencies, so I was in the Dresden residency put on by the GCAC, and this one was just different from the fact that I was experiencing it not through my own eyes, but through everyone's eyes. Like, all of us had the shared experience. We can get together, talk about it. We also, are really invested in each other's careers now, and we know each other really well from this experience. We go to each other's houses for dinner, we'll go to each other's openings, really interested in what other people are making and how Cuba's influenced that work. So the piece that I made for the Cuba exhibition was of the bridge between Havana and Matanzas, and it's like a very famous, very large bridge. And then it kind of just transforms into a bridge here in Columbus on Rich Street. And I also pulled in patterns from the different architecture and colors that I saw in Cuba. Travel is really important to my work. I pull from the architecture of spaces I go to. Patterns in Cuba that really inspired me were the ironwork for the cages on their doors and windows. They have these really beautiful tiles that are concrete that are just really patterned and unique. The colors of them are really beautiful. And then even just like the colors of the rubble and the buildings falling apart, I've brought that back to my work where my patterns are kind of falling out and then falling back in together. And the juxtaposition of all those patterns. And I transform those into paper, pulling palettes and patterns just from various places I saw. So Cuba was really beautiful in the preservation of what they have and how they try to keep it. They don't have the supplies to go and fix things. So they still have the 1950s tiles. They still have this really beautiful architecture. It just goes to show the care that they take with what they have.
Cuba made me realize all this notion of abundance that we have as an artist. They don't have it. They work with the most simplest, basic things, and they produce the most beautiful work I've ever seen in my life. It really made me realize that this camera and that lens, that expense, that all this stuff, that doesn't really matter. We have to look internally to produce work that really can last a generation. And as an artist, and I know I can name at least 10 artists that always say, I want to do this exhibit, but I don't have this piece, therefore I'm not going to do it. Go see Cuba and see how they're producing work, and you'll definitely change your mind. So what I've learned from Cuba, in short, is minimum is the best. Just do as little as you can, produce beautiful work, and focus on the actual work and not the material that you're using.
For me, as an African American, we talk about repurpose, recycling. That's nothing new to us. We've always made do with what was readily available to us. And that's what I saw a lot in Cuba with the Cuban artists. Okay, well, I don't have this color paint, or I don't have this paintbrush, but I can finagle this to turn it into a paintbrush. So, and the artwork is beautiful, and especially when you're looking at people who we take for granted here, a paintbrush, you know, oh, I can go to the store and get it just like that. It's not that simple in Cuba. You know, art supplies are not readily available, you know, so to see the level of creativity that people take just to bring their art to life is wonderful for me.
It just was so heartfelt to see the intensity and the depth of the quality of these artists, what they're producing in Cuba, and to see how little wealth there was in the country, things that we take for granted, such as easily getting painting supplies and being able to afford the materials we need and have wonderful spaces to work in with proper lighting and have good economic support. We take that for granted as artists, I think, in this community.
I had heard of this guy. I'd heard of it, and everybody that had been on the first trip was like, oh man, he's so cool. Oh, his artwork is amazing. And so when we went to Matanzas, it was almost like, okay, what we're doing today is we're gonna walk around. And we walked, and we walked, and it was really like a really cool way to see the city. But I never knew where we were going, and I didn't know who we were meeting. So I just heard of this artist that we were gonna find, and it didn't look like he was gonna be anywhere.
We've been here once a year ago, and how can we find him? And we're just going on a loop, constantly trying to locate him. And, you know, knocking on doors, you know, talking to these elderly women and asking people, and they're like, no, we don't know who this is. And finally somebody knew who he was.
We were on a little bit of a wild goose chase because I was retracing steps that I had made the year before with someone else who was there as well. And we were like, oh, this looks sort of like the right cross street. We had a restaurant as a place. We go down that street, so we started going down there, and we went so far that then I popped into two places. I knocked on the door that I thought was the old door. Nobody answered. Then I talked to the person next door and was asking, me encuentro Solomon, ¿sabe dónde vive? Do you know where he lives? And what happened was he had moved from the year before. We were in the right location. By the time we got to his street, then we saw, oh, there's his picture, and his, you know, he has his name and his picture up because he's got his art studio. We walked in the door, and this time I had brought a backpack with me full of like coffee and chocolates and sugar and pens. Pens are, you know, hard to find down there. We brought him some paint and some things, so I had my bag and walked in there and saw him in there, and he recognized me, and it was like almost moving. Like we gave each other a big hug, and it was that connection part. But it was that connection the year later was, you know, it was unexpected.
When I saw him again this past journey that we went up there, he had a big smile on his face when he saw me immediately. Like we recognized one another, and it was just great to have that little moment. And it was what always has been a memory is that he saw a little bit of my work and was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe someone like you is like so enamored by my work. And just that idea of both of us just being so inspired by one another.
As I made friends that work in the market, sell their artwork in the market, one thing I really want to take away from it is that I'm fortunate that I have galleries and shops that can sell my work for me. I don't have to be there 24 hours, you know, I don't have to sit outside in the heat and all this other stuff. And that my gallery shop owners will sell my work for what it's worth. And I realized there that it's not the same way. Work has to sell, and people will take a loss just to survive. And so a painting that is worth every bit of maybe $500 to $1,000 may sell for so much less, and it's not fair, but it's a survival mode because they have to do that.
Helping artists, local, international, understand the business of art and being an artist, not that they don't want that, but giving them those opportunities to grow It's like any entrepreneur. They love what they love, but someone has to teach them and support them more so on the business side of it, because it is a business. You know, you want to do well so that you can create more good. And without the business side of it, or people who understand that and support them, you get a gap in opportunity.
And I think the arts community has really embraced this new place and the importance of art in pushing the envelope.
Well, this is a big deal for all of us. It's quite wonderful to be able to be in an international show. I think it gives all of us an extra important line in our series, or our list of accomplishments. And with regard to our own personal work, you know, the Cuban people are, they're beautiful people. And I feel really, really thrilled to have them as part of my series, my Measured series.
When I was there, I experienced the people who were, for whatever reason, less concerned about material and more concerned about the person next to them. And while I say that's kind of who I've always been, it hasn't always reflected in the work. The care, the respect, the camaraderie hasn't always been reflected in the work. You know, the first time we went there, we saw a gentleman's vehicle break down in the middle of an intersection. And I literally watched people come out of their homes with tools to help him fix his car. And so seeing things like that, seeing the joy on a child's face when you hand them a soccer ball, seeing even the people begging, the appreciation they had when you actually gave them food or gave them deodorant, you know, I took that back with me. So even if the work itself is not happy work, I'm appreciative to even be able to do it, because that's what got me down there in the first place. And a lot of times I think if we don't necessarily appreciate the craft, we don't appreciate the privilege that it is to do these things that we do, because everybody can't do them. And even then, everybody doesn't put forth that effort and that discipline and go through those frustrations to be able to do these things that we were doing down there. So appreciation, it's in the work, it's in the action. It's really changed how I move in general as a man since I've gotten home.
The one thing that really struck me about going to Cuba, and that will continue within my work, is the resiliency of the determination of people to, you know, overcome whatever obstacle is in front of them. I found that there was a lot of universal qualities, of course, between the people I met and the people here back at home. And the work I'm doing now has a lot to do about thinking about how the mind works and how the brain works. And so that trip really kind of played into that.
For me, I had never been out of the country, so that was a big cultural influence on me. The color aspect of the colors of the city, the textures of the city, inspired me to start doing a complete different body of work that's in color now, and it's actually going to be figure and environment and cityscape and more about the surroundings of the people in the paintings, not just the portraits themselves.
Well, anything that broadens my perspective will help me as an artist. So meeting the people, the openness of the people, experiencing mostly experiencing Havana and Matanza, and just experiencing, again, the landscape, the buildings, the human beings, and all that will be feeding into work that I make.
It's very eye-opening to me. Just the interaction between the artists was really nice, and the conversations that you could have with the artists from America amongst ourselves, and then also with these Cuban artists, and seeing the power of the work that they do was very inspirational to me.
I think one of the things that I was the most fascinated by was this concept of being a maker to make and not being in the rat race of making. And that really made me think about who I was in my own practice in studio. And I started to kind of forget about who's making around me and why they're making. I'm in there for a reason. Just like all those Cuban artists are in their studios making for a reason. There's this love for making.
Okay, I would like to appreciate my family because second, I would like to appreciate the interpreter's work. David. Since the very beginning, we say interpreter, but he's part of my family. He's a family member. I do appreciate all his work. And all my team, I would like to appreciate all their work. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to build this roof you see now. Thank you very much.
My goal at the very beginning was because I met these Cubans, and I was so amazed by their art and their people and what they were producing. But they have a voice there that I think is missing here in Columbus. I wanted to do this exchange, and then they talked about, let's do an exchange. So I thought, how hard can that be? Luckily, we had Ruthie that kept you all in line, got you to all your appointments. Yeah. Thanks to our supporters. It takes all three. It takes the private sector, the institution, and the government.
I would hope that the arts institutions see this as an option for coming together every other year and saying, okay, what's our theme going to be? Let's pull in literature. Let's pull in the performing arts, the visual arts. Let's talk about what countries could be engaged. Let's find the local artists and just, do that mix at least every other year.
I believe that artists who have the opportunity to go into new environments really have the opportunity to grow their artistic talents. They're also able to see people in a different way, place. They also realize how many great things we have in our city here in Columbus, Ohio, and our state, because it's a pretty great place to live where artists are supported.
I think Columbus is a growing city. It's vibrant and there's growth everywhere. I love Columbus. It's easy access to restaurants and the theater, and it's home.
Extending an embrace to the Cuban people is an opportunity for growth for us. Through this special project, some of our city's brightest and most talented artists have been inspired by the kindness, talents, and beauty of the island. And their residents, we hope that we have done the same for them.